Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Diamond TV. It's 11:30 on a Tuesday morning, and already so much has happened during the day. And today we're going to talk about how to really value ourselves and other people. So let me share a little bit about what's happened already this morning. I had a really restless night's sleep last night. We were at a hotel for a couple of days, and I just had lots of little bits and pieces of dreams that were really confusing when I woke up. But I've learned that if I record them and just think them over the next day and ask God what was going on, often a common theme comes out. And that's something that I can pray into and ask God what it's all about. But when I shared the dreams with my husband, he looked at me and he said, I often find that happens in a hotel because our spiritual awareness is heightened. We tend to pick up what other people are going through. And I thought that was really interesting. Isn't it funny how each one of us is going through our own little scenario, our own little story every day? So we went downstairs to have some breakfast, and it was a beautiful dining room, all laid out beautifully for breakfast. And the general clientele of this hotel chain are blue and white collar workers. There are big industrial parks around here. Intellectual people that come down for a week, spend a week away from their families, do their work, and then go back on the weekends. So the dining room was filled with individuals who were having breakfast alone. We were the only couple there. Because we were there early, we sat on the side of the restaurant and got to look out and see who was coming in. This Asian gentleman walked in, and the waitress, who was a lady in maybe her 50s, sat him at a table. He got up and had his breakfast, and in between her sitting him down and him coming back with his breakfast, he decided to change table. Well, she was not happy. In a voice that was loud enough for all of us in the restaurant to hear, there were about 8 of us at this time, she looked at him and said, "That's not your table, this one is." The immediate impression I got was that even though she was the waitress and he was the client, and their jobs are very, very different. He was most probably a highly intelligent man who works at an international corporation, and she was his waitress. That she felt justified in telling him that he had to move in a voice loud enough for everyone else to hear, because she was British and white, and he was Asian and a foreigner. Now, whether that's correct or not, I don't know, but that's the feeling that I got at the time. So that interaction was really interesting to me. We got in the car, dropped my husband off at work, and I came back, and as I was parking, I swung the car in forward into the car parking space. Now, we have a long and big car, so it's often easier to reverse into the space, but I needed the boot open so that I could put our luggage back in. The angle was short, so I had to go in and out of the car parking space 3 times in order to get the car square in between the lines. And even though I was in between the lines the first time, I decided that I want to get it straight, because I know how frustrating it is when you try and get into your car and the person next to you is parked skew and you can't open your door properly. So in consideration for the people either side of me and me, for us all to be able to get our doors open properly, I decided to go in and out a couple of times till it was straight. Well, I pride myself on being a pretty good driver, and as I was reversing out of the space for the 3rd time, I looked across and saw a gentleman standing outside the hotel having a cigarette. And my instant thought was, I wonder if he thinks, why can't she get the car straight in the car parking space in the first time? And that he would think that I was a silly woman driver. Well, by the time I stopped the car, I sat there and I was actually quite nervous about going out and having him look at me in a judgmental way when I walked past him to get into the hotel, because I so pride myself on not being called a silly woman driver. I had to laugh at myself. I sat there and I just thought it through, and I thought, what was my motivation for wanting to park straight in the space? Well, it was so that me and the people beside me could get in and out easily without damaging each other's cars. So I had to take myself by the scruff of the neck and say, Lisa, your motivation was right. It makes no difference what he thinks of you or not. So I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and decided that that's what I was going to go with. Well, as I go, secretly, I still hoped that he wouldn't be there when I got out of the car, but he was. So I went across and threw some rubbish away in a bin, and as I was walking towards him, I had to correct my thoughts again and go, don't feel bad about yourself when you walk past him. Feel good about who you are and what your motivations were. And once again, I just squared my shoulders and I walked straight past. When I got into the hotel room, I looked out over the car park and saw all the different cars that were parked there. And on this theme of how we are as individuals and how we talk to ourselves and how we interact with other people, I thought about all of the stories of all of the owners of each of the cars in the car park and how each of those stories is completely unique and different, and how during a day we have our own story and we meet with somebody else who has their own story, and for a moment in a day those two stories connect and each write a part of the other one's story. And what a real privilege it is to be part of somebody else's story, even if it's for a short time every day. And on my way back from the office to the hotel, I was listening to a well-known preacher, and he was talking about remembering that you're a masterpiece. Wouldn't all the interactions that have even happened just today before 11:30, the dreams that I had about everyone in the hotel, the interaction at breakfast, the interaction in the car park, be so much different if we not only valued ourselves as a masterpiece that God has created, but valued other people that way too? Wouldn't the stories that come out of every day be so much more loving and nurturing and building up, and just stories that you want to remember, if each of us remembered that we are masterpieces that God has created, but so is everyone else around us? Wow. And as I sit here and dream about what that would look like, because some days it really does look like a dream, but as I sit and dream about that, I realize that the only thing I can do to affect that is to actually start with me. So just like Michael Jackson said when he said, I'm starting with a man in the mirror, I'm going to try that for myself. I'm going to start reminding myself of what a masterpiece I am, and then reminding myself of what a masterpiece everyone else is, so that where my story connects with somebody else's story in a day, it leaves a good mark. It leaves value. It leaves the person being built up. It leaves the person feeling better about themselves after they've met me than when they did before. And I'm really going to ask God to help me to do that today. Come along and join us on Facebook. Share your stories of how you've found this out for yourself and how you help other people to feel good. Join us on Twitter. It'd just be lovely to be able to get to meet you and get to know you and get to talk with you. So come along and join us. Let your friends know so that we can all talk about this together. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next week.